I think the word heartbreak summarises Rozhodkiv's race from last weekend. I mean, nothing more needs to be said than the fact that he got purple points running the 251.9, and yet he still managed to find himself in the bottom five. Let's talk about the two penalties that have been handed out to Picano and Matt Ryan. Now, I think it's fair to say that if at any point a driver is reversing on an active part of the racetrack, that warrants some kind of penalty. They overshot the pit lane, they didn't see the cones where they had to stop, and this is partly down to bad organisation on my behalf. I didn't have a pitman ready, and the pitman that tried to join us disconnected straight away. So we didn't have a pitman, and we had to deal with our pit stops all on our own, which was fine. There were no problems in that regard. It's just that a visual reminder of where to stop could have avoided all of this. And, in the end, Rozhodkiv ended up on his roof when he should have probably been, I think it was a good 6 seconds ahead of everybody else. Rozhodkiv pitted really early on. He just did the really easy option of coming into the pits when you're at the back, hot lapping it, and basically coming out in first. That works fantastically if you're the only one to do it, which Rozhodkiv was. But the risk is that if you gamble with that strategy and then everybody does it, then you're at the back with everybody while the front runners get away. But Rozhodkiv was the only one to do it, and by all accounts, he should have won this race by a fairly easy margin. He was the fastest guy coming into the race with the quickest lap time of a 2 minutes 50, which in the regular Massacro even gives Murphos's lap time in the Massacro race car a run for its money. He also ran a 250. So that's the kind of pace Rozhodkiv was running, and look where it's got him. So, 10-second penalties were handed to Picano and Ryan, which dropped them behind MC West and behind Chris D22. So, good points boost for MC West. That's one of his best results so far. Jakey H was not having a good day. Even his reserve drive in Division 2 for Iggy went shockingly bad. He got Iggy relegated and he got himself relegated. Jakey was just not on form with the Great Hills, and it was a shame to see him driving so badly because he wasn't able to get any practice in during the week, and he arrived really, really late, having just made it home on time to participate in the first place. So, yeah, it's a shame that Jakey had to go through that, but as it is, he's been relegated. Along with Most C Wanted and Mini Temper, who are both suffering from technical difficulties right now. Mini Temper's PS4 is just broken, or it's not reading his disc, and it would have taken him too long to download the digital copy. But we do expect to see Mini Temper back next week, so that's promising. Whereas Most C Wanted is suffering from a broken controller, so he needs to get himself a new one and get back into Division 2 as soon as possible. I wouldn't accept reserves for them this week because, well, they've already had other people getting them into Division 1. And basically, it's taking up 2 spaces from the active drivers in Division 2 who deserve to be in Division 1. So that's the reason for their relegation this week. On the other side of things, I had a great race, but Frinker had a better one, pulling off a very cunning pass on Shawnell on the final lap. That was a great move to see. Whereas Awes 7 exploited the opportunity that was given to him. So yet another congratulations is in order to these top tier perf drivers, and for Rozhodkiv, I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is what can happen when there's 5 relegation spots on the line. Absolutely anything can happen, and the heartbreak comes from the fact that if there were any week that you didn't want to be relegated, this was that week with the compact track where it's almost impossible to overtake coming up next week. Rozhodkiv, with the amount of points that he's got, is almost guaranteed to not get back into Division 1 next Sunday. So it's going to take a drive of a champion for him to pull that one off. I can't wait to see how he does. Moving on to Division 2. Even with Met Ryan starting at the back of the grid, substituting for Crow Gamer, which was organised well in advance, completely abiding by the rules, he was still able to to pull out quite a dominant win, met Ryan. So he was completely on form in this race, and this marks the end of drivers from an upper division being able to replace drivers from a lower division. So I'm no longer allowing Division 1 drivers to reserve Division 2 drivers, nor am I allowing Division 2 drivers to reserve for Division 3 drivers. You'll have to find someone else in the racing community who's either not in Children of the Mountain, as Frinker has done for next Sunday. Someone by the name of Neo Dark Shadow will be making an appearance. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this marks the end of reserves from divisions above you. As it is, Crow Gamer goes through to Division 1, along with a very decent drive from a well-practiced UFO driver. He started on pole, he finished second. You can't really ask for much more than that. Scrazo92 finally gets to where he thinks he belongs, into Division 1. He probably could have done that last week, but he wasn't able to make the race on time. G-Gamer was elated by his purple points, so well done to G-Gamer. I know they meant something to you. And Nima, well, this is another story of heartbreak because Oracle XR somehow managed to give up that position in the final lap. So congratulations to Nima for the gutsy comeback, especially considering the crash that you had at the start of the race. And everybody else falls into line. Digster Pop, Dr. Peppers, Charles the King and Gaming Easter Egg. Gaming Easter Egg and Dr. Peppers unable to make it back into Division 1 from where they fell. It should be interesting to see how they do next week. Whereas, unfortunately, Jim Bob has a very short stint in Division 2. He's going straight back down to Division 3. Dylan didn't have a great race either. Whitey's going down. Jakey drove for Iggy, and he was just all over the place. And my coming back disconnected. So, unfortunately, he'll also be going down. Right, let's move on to Division 3. I love Division 3. Because you just never know how it's going to go. Like, Roman has a decisive lead over the rest of the group, but then randomly decides to pit in and exit behind like 5 cars of traffic. All the while, Dawson stays out well ahead of everybody else and starts to increase his pace. So by this point, Dawson's opened up a huge gap, and it's like, alright, Dawson's got this in the bag as soon as he pits. But then somehow, when Dawson came round to pit, he had no gap over the others anymore, so he must have had like a crucial mistake on the lap that he was coming in on. So Dawson threw away his chance at winning. That somehow allowed Roman back into the lead, and all the while Nus Nus Manel, who was absolutely miles behind after a crash with Guzman on the very first straight, finally finds the pace that we all know he's got, puts together the only 252 of the group. There wasn't even a 253. Nus Nus Manel doesn't really belong in Division 3, to be honest, but you've got to start at the bottom, and he was able to finally climb through the entire pack and end up in second. Apart from that, Jim Bob and Whitey are going to be sick as dogs, because having been relegated from Division 2, they were driving for Mo Youngstar and Bad Herbatnik, and they've only gone and replaced themselves in Division 2 with Mo Youngstar and Bad Herbatnik. So as Jim Bob pointed out in the comments, it would have been better for him to show up late, lock out a relegation spot in Division 2, hang on to his position in the Division 3 race, and he wouldn't have been going down. But as it is, he's essentially replaced himself with Bad Herbatnik or Mo Youngstar. So, yeah, that's another reason why I'm ending this Division 2 drivers driving for Division 3 drivers as of this week. You will have to find a reserve from elsewhere. Imarogko took the lead on lap 1 from Roman, and he didn't start that near to the front. So, you know, with it being Imarogko's track, and him taking first position on the first lap, you know, I thought, okay, GG, this is over. But no, he must have had a few mistakes, because he started falling down the order, and then there was a great battle between Jim Bob, Weimer, and Anthony. Anthony was putting on the best drive of his life. Like, Anthony was coming in the bottom positions in the first couple of races when we first got Division 3 started. And what an improvement he showed in this race. He was really, really pushing Jim Bob and Imarogko for that Division 2 promotion spot. I was kind of rooting for him, to be honest. I kind of wish Anthony got it. But as it is, he's very secure in Division 3. And XR Cool and Got You Itch solidifying their positions in 8th and 9th once again. You guys are sticking around for yet another week. Congratulations. And Guzman and Senior Toto had a nice battle towards the end, which Guzman ultimately won. So Rat7 Chris and Where Are You Going Tommy and Marcus, thanks for coming back. But unfortunately, your name is sliding to the bottom of the waiting list once again, along with Evil Tunic and Oshawott. It will eventually come back up, and I'm sure I'll call on you guys again before you know it. But for now, you've probably seen in the events details and grid video, we've got 5 new challengers ready to start climbing the mountain. But for Senior Toto and company, I'm afraid we part ways for now. Let's look at how the standings have played out then. I still find myself in 5th, although Wes7 has been able to leapfrog me all the way up to 2nd. Mini Temper's inactivity has seen me gain a position there as well, so I've ended up staying in 5th. I'm getting a little bit closer to Rezodkiv as a result, but with Rezodkiv's unfortunate unlikeliness of returning to Division 1 this Sunday, I'm definitely going to pass him next week, so I'm certainly eyeing up 4th and potentially 3rd if Headshot has another race that went anything like this race. So yeah, I'm eyeing up 3rd, and I'm pretty good in compacts usually, although I have to say I don't think I've ever driven the Blister Compact. That could be a problem. I might have to jump on just after I finish recording this and buy one. And with the nature of this upcoming track, with it being so tight and so difficult / impossible to pass on, you've got to look at 29th position UFO driver and 35th position Nus Manel, who are starting 1st and 1st in Division 1 and Division 2 respectively. They've got to be rubbing their hands right now, knowing that it's going to take quite a lot for the guys behind them to pass them, and they've got the fortunate advantage of having almost no points, having started late, to be in this position for the races going forward. So this is a great opportunity for UFO driver to score that massive 35 points for coming first, and Nus will certainly hold down the fort in Division 2, going after those 30 points. Oh man, I just feel so bad for Rezodkiv. If you'd have just gone around the tree instead of going through the poles that don't break, you could have saved so many positions. But let's not dwell on the misfortune of others. Let's just use Rezodkiv as an example for a word of warning that I'd like to put out there. Now, drivers like him are going to be pushing as aggressively as they can. So if you don't want a gap to be taken, you absolutely must run a defensive line on this track. Any gap that you leave open on DSB's GP is going to be exploited. We can already assume that there's going to be a lot of trading paint, and yeah, that's all I ask really. If you want to claim a corner as your own, please ensure that you run a defensive line. Otherwise, someone's going to eat that position right up, and that man will be Rezodkiv, so keep your eyes open, Division 2. On that note, I don't think there's anything left to ask for, except next week, DSB's GP, Beehive? Are we all bringing the black and yellow cars? Please, I'm going to do it. Bring your black and yellow blisters, blister compacts and pantos, and it would be hilarious to see 15 black and yellow bees buzzing around DSB's GP. So until then, have a very good week, and I'll see you on Sunday.